In South Africa in 2010 and 2011, only 4 adults received lung transplants. Most people with severe end-stage lung disease can be considered for a lung transplant.
Alice, it's so lovely to meet you. It's the first time I've ever met someone who's had a lung transplant.
Oh, thanks. Yes, it's not a very common procedure, so I'm very fortunate to have been able to have it.
So you've got cystic fibrosis. It's obviously been a very difficult journey for you.
When I was still at school, it was actually not too bad. I managed to live a normal upbringing. University, I started struggling a bit more. By 4th year, when I was doing my honours, it got too hard to go to class. I couldn't cope with walking and carrying books. It was too much. And at that point, I also didn't feel comfortable going to class with portable oxygen.
So you reached a point where you actually couldn't be without your oxygen?
Yes. I was basically homebound.
How frustrating it must be to put such a limit on your life.
Yes, it is, especially at that point. I was 22 years old, so all the friends I studied with had finished and they were starting their careers and, everything that I should have been doing, and I was going backwards, and, I felt like a 90 or 100-year-old sitting at home, not being able to breathe while everyone else could just carry on.
When you realized you needed the lung transplant, your condition was obviously very, very serious.
Yes, definitely. The rule of thumb for listing someone for a lung transplant is that they should have a 50% chance of surviving the next 2 years. And I knew that I didn't have 2 years left. Luckily, I only waited 8 months. And by then the surgeon actually told my parents I only had a few weeks left. So I didn't feel like I only had a few weeks left, but I'll take his word for it.
What was the procedure like, and how long was your recovery period?
When I got called for the lungs 8 months after being listed, I was speechless. They phoned me at about 22:11 at night. I wasn't asleep yet. I actually couldn't sleep, and my heart almost stopped. So I woke my mom up. We were a bit frantic, like what now? We're in PE and it's midnight and the airport's closed. So we booked a flight online, first flight up to Joburg, and yes, I was in the hospital and ready to go by 8 o'clock. Didn't sleep that night.
The procedure is considered when someone seems likely to die without surgery and no other options are available. A transplant can increase lung function and add years to someone's life.
What type of patients qualify for lung transplants?
Basically any patient that is otherwise well and has got no other major illness and ideally has only one organ that is diseased, namely the lungs.
Of the organs that can be transplanted, are lungs quite difficult?
Yes, I think lungs are the most difficult because they are the most vulnerable organs in the body.
A common rule quoted by doctors and transplant coordinators is that 75% of lung transplant patients survive the first year, and about 5% fail each year after that.
Now with Alice, she obviously reached a point where her lungs were just not working.
Yes, when I first saw her, she was exceedingly ill, and in fact I feared for her life when I first saw her. Her oxygen levels were far below what is usual to sustain life, and she was wearing oxygen all the time and could do virtually nothing without getting short of breath.
With a lung transplant, in fact with any transplant, what are the risks involved?
You are taking an organ into your body that is not your own, and it is at constant risk of being rejected by the immune system of the body. So you have to take a large amount of medication to suppress that immune system, and this is dangerous. It leads you to be at risk for infections and malignancies and all kinds of other side effects.
Can you tell us about Alice's quality of life now after the transplant, and has she had to modify her lifestyle?
She's had to be very careful with what she does. She has to take medication every day very religiously, and she has to watch herself carefully and come in for regular checkups. But apart from that, her functional capacity is absolutely remarkable, and it is that of any young woman of 25 years old who is healthy but taking medication.
It must be extremely rewarding to have treated a patient like Alice.
Absolutely. They always teach us that you shouldn't become emotionally attached to your patients, but you certainly do. Alice has become a friend of ours. In fact, my daughter was a bridesmaid at her wedding, and we were most privileged to attend her wedding. But she's crept into our lives, as she does into everybody's lives. The improvement in her life is such a testimony to transplantation in general that it gives us encouragement for doing the next patient and the next patient.
Alice put her gift to good use when she competed at the World Transplant Games. The Games honour not only the recipient but the organ donor as well. For Alice, it was a sign of gratitude.
So you've competed in the World Transplant Games.
Yes, when I heard about the games, I found out about it online. I just thought, that would be such a cool way to honour your donor, to fully use the lungs that you got. I didn't qualify immediately, but I eventually qualified for the Australian Games in 2009.
With everything that you've gone through, what message would you like to give people out there?
For people considering being organ donors, I would definitely say register as an organ donor, please. But more importantly, you need to tell your family about your wishes, because you might be registered as a donor, but if your family don't know about it, it means nothing and your organs won't be donated because they've got the last say. For other cystic fibrosis patients, I would say if you think you're starting to reach the stage where you might consider a transplant, or you can't, you don't have any quality of life anymore, you need to, talk to your doctor, to see a transplant doctor and, make it happen.